Hi, I'm Sandy Cabillas, and this is my one-eyed Cocker Spaniel Buffy, who's joining us just for a minute here while I introduce books for dog lovers. Now, people are always asking me what kind of books are good for people who like dogs, and so I have several recommendations. The first one is The Dog Lived, and So Will I by Teresa Ryan. And this book involves a beagle named Seamus that Teresa adopted. It's a memoir, and it's a love story on multiple levels. It's between Teresa and her dog, of course, and she also has a boyfriend named Chris that she's not so sure she wants to become heavily involved with at first. Well, one day she takes Seamus to the groomer, and she finds a tiny little speck on his butt. It turns out to be a mast cell tumor, and the vet tells her the dog has like a year to live. So Teresa's devastated. This is a young dog; he's only a couple of years old. So she does everything she can to save him and get treatments, and the dog does live. But about 6 months after he has all his treatments for chemotherapy and surgery, Teresa develops a serious form of breast cancer. So she has to go through all the chemotherapy and treatments, even worse than what Seamus did. It's a good story. It actually has a positive ending. As she says in the title, the dog lived and so will I. But it's highly recommended. It's a great memoir. Very much recommended. Next one is another memoir called Dog Medicine by Julie Barton. And it's about a dog and depression. Now, many people who've owned dogs have had a dog that's affected them more than any other dog, or uh, just have helped them in multiple ways. And this dog is Bunker. He's a golden retriever, and Julie has a very bad case of depression to the point where she's collapsed and can't really function as a person. And this is before she owned Bunker, but her parents, she's in her early 20s, her parents go along with her idea of maybe getting a sort of a therapy dog, but really just as a puppy that might help her out. So she adopts Bunker, and she has this immediate connection with him where she just has to pet him as soon as she feels like an anxiety attack coming on, and she feels so much better. So Julie starts living her own life, leaves her parents, the safety of her parents, moves out from Ohio to Seattle, and lives with some people who she doesn't really know very well, and gets along. Everything's going well until Bunker starts having problems walking, and so she takes him to the vet and finds out that he has the worst case of hip dysplasia that the vet has ever seen, and the vet just says, put him down. There's no way to save this dog. He's in incredible pain. Put him down. And Julie's like, no way. This dog helps me so much. I have to keep this dog. So she scrapes together as much money as she can. Her friends help her out. Her parents help her out. She takes him to the best surgeon surgeon she could find, and she does save this dog, although he doesn't run as much as a normal dog, but she does save this dog and saves herself as well. So again, a very positive, uplifting memoir. The next book is also a memoir by it's Thunder Dog by Michael Hinkston and Susie Flory, and it's the true story of a blind man, his guide dog, and the triumph of trust. Now, I don't have the book with me, unfortunately. I'd given it away. I do have the second book, though, which is a children's book, Running with Roselle. And Michael Hinkston was in the Twin Towers when they were hit by the airplanes in 2001 on September 11th. And he's blind, and his life is incredible. I've learned so much about blind people and what it's like to be blind. And his parents didn't raise him as a blind kid. They let him play with the neighborhood kids. He went to regular school. He even learned how to ride a bike with echolocation, so he could like hear doorways and even hear uh, cars that were parked at the side of the road. He could kind of sense where their presence was. He did amazing things. And so he worked like a normal person. He actually worked as a salesman in the Twin Towers. And when it got hit by an airplane, he had his guide dog Roselle with him, who guided him down 78 flights of steps. And they made it out okay, only to have, after walking a few blocks, then the South Tower collapsed and they were engulfed in dust and almost choked to death. Um, and Michael's projection on life totally changed after this, and he became a spokesperson for the National Association for the Blind. And the name Roselle is been retired or memorialized because of Roselle, the dog, who helped him out through this tragedy. And he kept thinking all the way down, the dog is fine, the dog's not panicking, everything's going to be okay. So he really relied on Roselle to bring him down through the Twin Towers. So again, a memoir, very highly recommended, both Thunderdog and Running for Roselle. The next one is a fiction book by Bruce Cameron, A Dog's Way Home, which again was actually a library book. And this is, I first thought it was kind of like Incredible Journey, where lost dogs travel far distances, and to some extent it is, but it's also involves more modern day techniques. It has a puppy that was rescued by Lucas, and the dog actually seems to have ability to help his mom know when she's going to have an epileptic seizure. So he really wants to keep this dog around, but of course it's against his rules for the apartment he's sharing, and the dog catcher thinks that this dog has Bella actually has a pit bull mix, and even though she doesn't look at all like a pit bull, but apparently they have anti-pit bull rules in this town. So of course the dog catcher is trying to find him, and the dog gets away and has to cross over the Rocky Mountains near Denver to find Lucas. So it's kind of an amazing story. It's told through the dog's point of view, which I'm always being told is not something that is usually done very well, but this is just perfect. You can always just imagine what this dog is thinking. Just as someone who's owned a dog for many decades, it just seems like he copied exactly what the dog would be thinking. And the last one I wanted to talk about, at least in my blog, sandycabillas.com, that I'd recommended, was Through Frankie's Eyes by Barbara Tickle. And the dachshund in the wheelchair caught my attention. This is again a memoir, and the dachshund actually was not born paralyzed in the back end. He had, or actually she, her name is Frankie, had an accident while Barbara was on vacation. So again, this is another memoir. And the dog didn't even fall all that far, just jumped and fell off a chair or a stool or something. And with intervertebral disc disease, just was not able to recover after multiple surgeries from walking. So Barbara decides to start going to grade schools and talking to school children about acceptance of handicapped people and just acceptance of how the differences between people, because dogs are like, well, okay, now I got a wheelchair and I can't walk right. They just accept that this is the way they are now. They don't think about, oh, this is not cool and I can't be this way. They don't have all those mental inhibitions. They just accept it. And I did own a dog that had a wheelchair, so I had a immediate connection with that. A couple other books I wanted to recommend that weren't on my list, but I just finished. Actually, I wrote this review of the Dog Cancer Survival Guide in my Canine Cancer Concerns website. Highly recommend it. It's very thick, but it's also, you don't read the whole thing, although I did read it cover to cover. It has lots of recommendations. It's very easy to read. And it's good even if your dog doesn't have cancer. Well, there's a 50% chance if your dog lives to be like 8 or 10 years old, that's likely to get cancer. But things you can do to prevent your dog from getting cancer, even as a puppy, just food you feed it, things you do, Things you just might want to consider even at early stages. But if your dog does have cancer, you definitely want to get this. And I really wish I had had it when I had cancer, had dogs that had cancer. And the next one I want to cover was Be Like Bud, which is The Lives of Roxy Reading Therapy Dogs, which is a children's book, and which I plan to give to my grandnephew, um, who is kind of at the stage where they're starting to read. And I think the program is really cool, where they're learning to read, and they're reading to dogs because they feel a lot less inhibited. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Oprah's 17 books for dog lovers. Definitely encourage you to think about checking out some of these books. I've never had an Oprah book that I didn't like, and I have not read actually most of them yet, but many of them are on my list and hope to get to them soon. With that, I think I'll be signing off. Please check out sandycabillas.com for more updates on some of our book reviews. A lot of them are information about dogs and other things as well. There's also www.caninecancerconcerns.com about dog cancers. And then there's also my copywriting website at Canine Environmental. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.